It all started on a quiet Sunday evening in late 2023. Elon Musk, the man known for his electric cars, space rockets, and social media antics, was live streaming one of his infamous interviews. People expected him to talk about his latest innovations, or maybe crack another quirky joke. But what he said next left everyone speechless. Musk leaned forward, his face serious, almost as if he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He began talking about something that sounded like it came straight out of a Hollywood thriller. "I've uncovered information," he said, pausing for effect, "that will change how people see power and politics forever." The room went silent. Even the host seemed unsure how to respond. Musk wasn't done yet. He claimed that while testing Neuralink's advanced AI systems, technology designed to connect human brains with computers, they stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to find. It wasn't just random data. It was classified documents tied to none other than Hillary Clinton, the former U.S. Secretary of State and presidential candidate. At first, no one believed him. After all, Musk had made bold claims before, some of which turned out to be true, but others, not so much. Skeptics rolled their eyes thinking this was another publicity stunt. But then things got interesting. Over the next few days, snippets of emails and documents began appearing online. These files were tagged with dates and timestamps, linking them to major political events over the years. Suddenly, people weren't laughing anymore. One email chain talked about deals made behind closed doors during Clinton's time at the State Department. Another hinted at connections between powerful corporations and foreign governments. Nothing was confirmed yet, but the sheer amount of detail made it hard to ignore. Was this real? Or was Musk spinning another wild tale? What made it even more gripping was the reaction from the public. Social media exploded with theories, debates, and arguments. Some praised Musk for exposing the truth, calling him a modern-day whistleblower. Others accused him of fabricating stories to boost his own image. News channels couldn't stop discussing it. Every hour brought new updates, new leaks, and new questions. But here's where it got personal for Musk. As soon as the story broke, threats started pouring in. Anonymous messages warned him to back off, telling him he was playing with fire. For someone who already lived under constant scrutiny, this felt different. This wasn't just criticism. It was danger knocking at his door. Yet, instead of retreating, Musk doubled down. He promised to release more evidence piece by piece. Until the whole truth came out. People couldn't help but wonder why Musk was doing this. Was it genuine concern for justice? A desire to hold powerful people accountable? Or was there something else driving him? Whatever the reason, one thing was clear. He wasn't backing down anytime soon. As the days passed, the leaks kept coming. Each revelation added fuel to the fire, making the scandal bigger and more explosive. Journalists scrambled to verify the authenticity of the documents, while politicians demanded answers. Meanwhile, ordinary people watched in awe, glued to their screens, trying to make sense of it all. For many, this wasn't just about Hillary Clinton or Elon Musk. It was about trust. Trust in leaders, trust in institutions, and trust in the systems we rely on every day. If even half of what Musk claimed was true, it meant that nothing was as it seemed. And that thought terrified everyone. So as the world waited anxiously for the next chapter in this unfolding drama, one question lingered in everyone's mind. How far would Elon Musk go to uncover the truth? And more importantly, what price would he pay for it? This was just the beginning. Little did anyone know the real surprises were still waiting around the corner. As the dust began to settle from Elon Musk's initial bombshell, people realized this wasn't just a one-time leak. It was the start of something much bigger. Musk didn't stop after dropping those first few documents. Instead, he kept feeding the world more details, each revelation darker and more shocking than the last. It felt like peeling back layers of an onion, except every layer stung a little more than the previous one. The second wave of leaks painted a picture that seemed almost too outrageous to believe. According to Musk, Hillary Clinton wasn't just involved in questionable decisions during her time as Secretary of State. She was allegedly at the center of what he called a coordinated crime ring. This wasn't just about politics, it was about power, money, and control on a global scale. The document suggested that Clinton had used her position to orchestrate deals that benefited powerful corporations, wealthy elites, and even foreign governments, all while hiding behind the veil of diplomacy. One document stood out among the rest. It mentioned something called Operation Iron Curtain, a code name for what appeared to be a series of covert actions aimed at destabilizing regimes unfriendly to U.S. interests. Another file referenced Blue Phoenix Initiative, which supposedly funneled millions of dollars through offshore accounts to fund secret projects. None of these operations were officially acknowledged by anyone in government, but the leaked emails hinted at their existence. What made these claims so compelling wasn't just the content, it was the context. Musk released timestamps showing when certain emails were sent and who they were exchanged with. Some of them coincided with major international events, like economic sanctions or military interventions. Critics argued that correlation didn't equal causation, but for many the timing was too suspicious to ignore. Then came another twist. One batch of documents revealed alleged ties between Clinton's inner circle and Russian oligarchs. If true, this directly contradicted earlier narratives about foreign interference in U.S. elections. It raised uncomfortable questions. Who really pulled the strings? And how deep did the web of influence go? Of course, not everyone bought into Musk's narrative. Skeptics pointed out that the documents could have been doctored or taken out of context. Mainstream media outlets dismissed the leaks as baseless conspiracy theories, accusing Musk of using misinformation to further his own agenda. Some even suggested he was trying to distract from his own controversies, like his rocky relationship with regulators or the backlash against his business practices. But for every critic, there was a supporter willing to defend Musk. People who had long suspected corruption in high places saw this as proof of their worst fears. Online forums lit up with discussions, dissecting every detail of the leaks. Some users claimed to have inside knowledge, adding fuel to the fire. Others shared their own experiences, alleging they'd witnessed similar behavior in other industries. Whether fact or fiction, the story had struck a nerve. Amid all the noise, whispers of danger grew louder. Anonymous threats flooded Musk's inbox, warning him to stop digging before it was too on. Hackers attempted to breach his servers, and rumors swirled about hired hitmen lurking in the shadows. For someone already accustomed to living under constant scrutiny, this felt different. This wasn't just criticism, it was a clear message. Back off, or face the consequences. Yet, Musk refused to budge. In fact, he leaned harder into the chaos. During a live-streamed update, he addressed the threats head-on. "If I'm doing something wrong," he said, his tone defiant, "then why are they so afraid of the truth? Why are they trying to silence me?" His words resonated with millions of viewers, turning him into both a hero and a lightning rod for controversy. Behind the scenes, Musk reportedly ramped up security measures for himself and his family. He surrounded himself with trusted advisors, some of whom had experience dealing with high-stakes situations. Despite the risks, he continued releasing new pieces of evidence weekly, each revelation more explosive than the last. By now, it was clear that this wasn't just about exposing wrongdoing, it was about survival. Musk knew that stopping would mean admitting defeat, and that wasn't an option for him. For the public, the scandal became a daily obsession. Conversations revolved around the latest leak, the implications of the findings, and what might come next. Protesters took to the streets holding signs demanding accountability. Conspiracy theorists spun wild tales about secret societies and shadow governments. Even casual observers found themselves drawn into the drama, unable to look away. And yet, amidst all the chaos, one question lingered. Where would this lead? Would Musk succeed in uncovering the full truth? Or would he become another casualty of the very system he sought to expose? No one knew for sure, but one thing was certain. The world was watching, and nothing would ever be the same again. This was no longer just Elon Musk versus Hillary Clinton. It was a battle for transparency, trust, and the soul of modern society. And as the story unfolded, it became increasingly clear that the stakes couldn't be higher. As the scandal grew bigger with each passing day, Elon Musk found himself in a strange position. On one side, he had become a symbol of resistance for millions of people who believed the system was rigged against them. On the other side, he was facing an army of critics who thought he was either lying or losing his mind. The battle lines were drawn, and it wasn't just about Musk anymore. It was about who stood with him and who stood against him. Musk didn't fight this war alone. Slowly but surely, others began stepping forward to support his claims. Some were whistleblowers, people who had worked inside powerful organizations and seen things they couldn't unsee. One such person was a former intelligence officer who claimed to have been pushed out of their job after raising concerns about unethical practices during Clinton's time as Secretary of State. Their story added weight to Musk's accusations, giving the leaks a layer of credibility that was hard to ignore. Others came from unexpected places. A retired banker revealed how certain offshore accounts linked to Clinton's associates had been used to move large sums of money around the world. Another insider, this time from a tech company, explained how data manipulation techniques could be used to cover tracks in ways most people wouldn't even think possible. These voices weren't loud or flashy, but they mattered. They gave ordinary people something to hold on to, a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, Musk was telling the truth. But not everyone was on his side. In fact, the pushback was fierce. Powerful figures in politics, media, and business wasted no time trying to shut Musk down. Mainstream news outlets dismissed the leaks as baseless conspiracy theories, accusing Musk of fabricating evidence to boost his own influence. Columnists wrote scathing articles calling him reckless, irresponsible, and dangerous. Late-night comedians made jokes about him, turning his crusade into a punchline. Even some of Musk's old allies started distancing themselves. Friends and colleagues who once praised him for his bold ideas now avoided mentioning his name. It was clear they didn't want to get caught in the crossfire. For Musk, this must have stung. He had always been a polarizing figure, but this level of isolation was new territory for him. Still, he pressed on, refusing to back down. Legal. Experts threw another wrench into the mix. They warned that Musk could face serious consequences for releasing classified material, regardless of whether it was real or fake. Lawsuits loomed on the horizon, and regulators began scrutinizing his businesses more closely than ever. Critics seized on these developments, arguing that Musk's actions proved he was reckless and self-serving. To them, this wasn't about exposing corruption. It was about creating chaos. Despite all the pressure, Musk kept doubling down. He promised to release more documents, vowing to expose every layer of what he called a massive cover-up. His determination inspired some, but it also raised eyebrows. Was he brave or was he naive? Either way, there was no denying that he had become the center of a storm, unlike anything the world had seen before. For the public, watching this unfold felt like being stuck between two opposing forces. On one hand, there were those who saw Musk as a hero, a modern-day David taking on Goliath. They cheered him on, sharing his updates and defending him against attacks. Online forums buzzed with activity as supporters dissected every new leak, piecing together clues like detectives solving a mystery. For them, this wasn't just about Musk or Clinton, it was about holding powerful people accountable. On the other hand, there were skeptics who thought Musk was playing with fire. They argued that even if some of the documents were real, releasing them without proper context could do more harm than good. What if innocent people got hurt? What if national security was compromised? These questions lingered in the background, casting doubt over Musk's mission. Amid all the noise, Musk's personal life became increasingly complicated. Threats against him escalated, forcing him to tighten security measures for himself and his family. Rumors swirled about attempts to hack his systems or sabotage his companies. Yet, despite the risks, Musk remained defiant. During a live-streamed update, he addressed his critics directly, saying, "If I'm wrong, then prove it. But don't try to silence me because you're afraid of the truth." His words struck a chord with many viewers, reinforcing his image. as someone willing to risk everything for what he believed in. At the same time, they fueled the anger of his opponents, who saw him as arrogant and reckless. The divide between supporters and detractors grew wider with each passing day, turning the scandal into a cultural battleground. As the weeks went by, the stakes kept rising. Governments around the world launched investigations into the allegations, though few people trusted these efforts to be genuine. Protesters took to the streets demanding transparency and accountability. Social media exploded with hashtags, memes, and debates, reflecting the deep divisions within society. Through it all, one thing was clear. This wasn't just about Elon Musk or Hillary Clinton. It was about trust, or the lack of it. People were tired of feeling powerless, tired of wondering if their leaders were working for them or for someone else. Whether Musk was right or wrong, his actions had tapped into something much bigger than himself. And as the story continued to unfold, it became increasingly clear that the fallout would reshape the world in ways no one could predict. The question on everyone's mind was simple, yet profound. Where would this lead? Would Musk succeed in uncovering the full truth, or would he become another victim of the very system he sought to expose? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: the world was watching, and nothing would ever be the same again. By early 2024, the scandal had grown into a full-blown global firestorm. What started as Elon Musk's bold claims about Hillary Clinton and her alleged crime ring had spiraled into something much bigger. Governments were scrambling, protests filled the streets, and people everywhere were glued to their screens waiting for the next shoe to drop. It felt like the world was holding its breath, unsure of what would happen next. The fallout hit hard and fast. Governments around the globe launched investigations, but it quickly became clear that not everyone was playing fair. Some countries acted swiftly, arresting high-profile individuals linked to the leaks. Others dragged their feet, issuing vague statements or outright denying any wrongdoing. Critics accused these governments of stalling tactics, suggesting they were trying to protect their own interests rather than seek justice. For many, this only reinforced the idea that powerful people always found ways to shield themselves from accountability. In the United States, the situation was particularly chaotic. Calls for impeachment echoed in Congress, not for sitting officials but for retroactive justice against those implicated in the scandal. Lawmakers debated late into the night, arguing over whether it was even possible to hold someone accountable, years after the fact. Meanwhile, protesters gathered outside government buildings demanding answers. Signs read things like "Truth Matters" and "No More Secrets," reflecting the growing frustration among ordinary citizens who felt betrayed by the system. Hillary Clinton finally broke her silence during a highly anticipated televised address. Looking calm but determined, she denied all allegations, calling them baseless attacks fueled by personal vendettas. She accused Musk of orchestrating a smear campaign designed to tarnish her reputation and distract from his own controversies. Her speech was polished and professional, but it didn't sway everyone. Skeptics pointed out that denial was easy. Proving innocence was another matter entirely. As the legal battles heated up, Musk himself became a target. His companies faced boycotts, lawsuits, and intense regulatory scrutiny. Customers canceled orders for Tesla cars, advertisers pulled out of X, formerly Twitter, and investors grew nervous about the future of his ventures. Financial losses piled up, with some estimates suggesting his businesses had taken billions in hits. Yet despite the mounting pressure, Musk refused to back down. He insisted that exposing the truth was worth any cost, even if it meant losing everything he had built. Behind the scenes, Musk's life became increasingly complicated. Security teams worked around the clock to protect him and his family from threats. Anonymous messages flooded his inbox, some warning him to stop, others threatening violence. Hackers launched relentless attacks on his servers, attempting to breach his systems and steal sensitive data. Musk later revealed that one attempt nearly succeeded, forcing him to shut down parts of his network temporarily. It was a reminder that this fight wasn't just about politics, it was personal. Yet even as the risks mounted, Musk continued releasing new pieces of evidence. Each revelation added fuel to the fire, keeping the public hooked. One batch of documents exposed ties between powerful corporations and foreign governments, raising questions about whose interests were really being served. Another set of emails suggested that certain policies implemented during Clinton's tenure at the State Department may have been influenced by private donors rather than public good. These claims were explosive, sparking outrage and debate across social media. For many, the scandal highlighted a deeper issue: trust, or the lack of it. People were tired of feeling powerless, tired of wondering if their leaders truly represented them or answered to hidden agendas. Whether Musk's claims were fully accurate or partially exaggerated, they had struck a nerve. Conversations shifted from individual accusations to broader discussions about transparency, accountability, and reform. Protesters began organizing rallies not just against specific individuals but for systemic change. Hashtags like "Expose the Truth" and "Us Demand Accountability" trended worldwide, uniting people from different backgrounds under a shared cause. But not everyone supported the movement. Critics argued that Musk's crusade was reckless, pointing out the potential dangers of releasing classified information without proper context. They worried about unintended consequences. What if innocent people got hurt? What if national security was compromised? Others accused him of using misinformation to further his own agenda, claiming he cared more about headlines than facts. These arguments gained traction, especially among those who already distrusted Musk's motives. Despite the backlash, Musk remained steadfast. In a live-streamed update, he addressed his critics head-on, saying, "If I'm wrong, then prove it, but don't try to silence me because you're afraid of the truth." His words resonated with supporters, reinforcing his image as someone willing to risk everything for what he believed in. At the same time, they infuriated opponents, who saw him as arrogant and irresponsible. As the weeks turned into months, the story showed no signs of slowing down. New leaks kept surfacing, each one adding complexity to an already tangled web. Journalists struggled to keep up, while legal experts debated the implications of Musk's actions. Protesters marched, politicians argued, and ordinary people tried to make sense of it all. Through it all, one thing was clear. This wasn't just about Elon Musk or Hillary Clinton anymore. It was about power, who has it, how they use it, and what happens when it goes unchecked. Whether Musk succeeded or failed, his crusade had already changed the game. Trust in institutions had shattered, leaving behind a void that would take years, if not decades, to fill. As the dust settled, people began asking tough questions. Could society rebuild itself on a foundation of transparency and accountability? Or was corruption too deeply ingrained to root out completely? No one knew for sure, but one thing was certain. The world was watching and nothing would ever be the same again. Just when it seemed like Elon Musk was gaining the upper hand, a bombshell dropped that no one saw coming. This time, the betrayal didn't come from outside. It came from within his own camp. A high-ranking executive at X, formerly Twitter, leaked internal communications suggesting that some of the documents Musk had released might not be as authentic as he claimed. The accusation sent shockwaves through the public discourse, casting doubt on everything people thought they knew. The leaked messages painted a troubling picture. According to the whistleblower, Musk's team had allegedly altered certain files before releasing them to the public. The goal, supposedly, was to strengthen the narrative and make the allegations against Hillary Clinton more convincing. Critics pounced on the revelation, accusing Musk of crossing ethical lines in his quest for truth. Skeptics who had doubted him from the start now felt vindicated, pointing to this as proof that Musk couldn't be trusted. For Musk, this was a devastating blow. Up until now, he had positioned himself as someone fighting for transparency and accountability. But if even part of what the whistleblower said was true, it undermined his entire mission. Supporters scrambled to defend him, arguing that minor edits didn't negate the bigger picture. They claimed the core allegations were still valid, regardless of how the documents were presented. Still, the damage was done. Trust began to erode, not just in Musk, but in the movement he had inspired. As news of the betrayal spread, Reactions poured in from all sides. Mainstream media outlets seized the opportunity to discredit Musk further, running headlines like, "Elon Musk's House of Cards begins to crumble and the truth about the leaks." Late-night talk show hosts mocked him mercilessly, turning the controversy into late-night comedy fodder. Even some of his most loyal fans started questioning whether they'd been too quick to believe him. But it wasn't just the critics who weighed in. Whistleblowers from other corners of Musk's empire began speaking out, adding fuel to the fire. One former employee revealed how intense the pressure had become inside Musk's companies. Deadlines were relentless. Stress levels were through the roof and mistakes were bound to happen. Another insider described heated arguments among Musk's advisors, with some urging caution while others pushed for full steam ahead. These accounts painted a chaotic behind-the-scenes picture, raising questions about whether Musk had bitten off more than he could chew. Despite the mounting challenges, Musk refused to back down. In a live-streamed address, he addressed the accusations head-on, calling them a smear campaign orchestrated by his enemies. "Yes, we made mistakes," he admitted, his tone unusually somber. "But those mistakes don't change the fact that there is a much larger issue at play here. People are focusing on minor details instead of addressing the real problem." He went on to explain that the alleged alterations were minor formatting changes meant to protect sources or clarify context, not deliberate falsifications. Whether people believed him or not depended largely on where they stood before the leak. For supporters, his explanation was enough to restore their faith. For skeptics, it only deepened their doubts. To salvage his credibility, and perhaps his legacy, Musk announced a bold move. He would submit all raw data to independent auditors for verification. He invited experts from around the world to examine the documents, promising full access without interference. It was a risky gamble. If the audit proved the leaks were fake, it could destroy him completely. But if it validated his claims, it would silence his critics once and for all. The announcement sparked mixed reactions. Some praised Musk for taking responsibility and embracing transparency. Others dismissed it as a desperate attempt to save face. Meanwhile, legal experts warned that submitting classified material to third parties could open him up to even more lawsuits and criminal charges. Yet, Musk insisted it was the only way forward. "If I'm wrong," he said during the announcement, "then hold me accountable. But if I'm right, then justice must prevail." As the auditors began their work, the scandal entered a strange limbo. Public interest remained high, but uncertainty loomed over everything. People debated endlessly about what the audit would reveal. Would it exonerate Musk, proving he was a crusader for truth? Or would it expose him as a reckless opportunist who had gone too far? During this period, Musk's personal life became increasingly strained. The constant scrutiny took a toll on him physically and emotionally. Friends noticed he looked exhausted, his usual confidence replaced by a quiet determination. Security measures around him tightened even further, with bodyguards accompanying him everywhere he went. Rumors swirled about threats escalating, both online and offline. For someone who thrived on being in control, this loss of certainty must have been unbearable. Yet despite the chaos, Musk continued pushing forward. He used his platforms to keep the conversation alive, sharing updates and engaging directly with his audience. He acknowledged the criticisms, apologized for missteps, and reiterated his commitment to uncovering the truth. His vulnerability resonated with some, reminding them that he was human after all. To others, it came across as calculated PR spin, a last-ditch effort to win back trust. Meanwhile, the broader implications of the scandal continued to unfold. Governments faced growing pressure to act, with citizens demanding investigations and reforms. Protests intensified, drawing attention not just to the specific allegations but to systemic issues of corruption and lack of transparency. Social media buzzed with hashtags like "Audit the Truth" and "Justice for All," reflecting the ongoing tension between hope and skepticism. For many, this chapter of the story served as a sobering reminder of how fragile trust can be. Whether Musk was ultimately proven right or wrong, his crusade had exposed deep cracks in the foundation of modern society. People were left grappling with uncomfortable questions. Who can we trust? How do we hold power accountable? And what happens when the line between hero and villain blurs? As the audit dragged on, anticipation reached a fever pitch. Everyone, from politicians to journalists to ordinary citizens, waited anxiously for the results. What would they reveal? Would they vindicate Musk or condemn him? No one knew for sure, but one thing was certain. The outcome would shape the future in ways no one could predict. In the end, this wasn't just about Elon Musk or Hillary Clinton anymore. It was about something much bigger, a reckoning with the systems and structures that governed the world. Whether Musk succeeded or failed, his actions had already changed the game. The question now was whether society was ready to face the truth, or if it preferred to look away. Months passed and the world waited with bated breath for the results of the independent audit. The anticipation was unbearable. Every news outlet covered the story nonstop, speculating about what the findings might reveal. Social media was flooded with theories, predictions, and heated debates. People couldn't stop talking about it. Would Elon Musk be vindicated, or would this be the end of his crusade? No one knew for sure, but everyone had an opinion. Finally, the day arrived. The auditors released their report, and it was a bombshell, not because it gave a clear-cut answer, but because it left room for interpretation. According to the findings, some of the documents Musk had released were indeed authentic. They contained real evidence of questionable dealings tied to Hillary Clinton's time as Secretary of State. However, other documents showed signs of tampering, minor changes made to wording or formatting that could have altered their meaning. It wasn't outright fabrication, but it wasn't entirely clean either. The report sent shockwaves through the public. For Musk's supporters, the validation of even part of his claims was enough to reignite their faith in him. He was telling the truth, they shouted online, hailing him as a hero who dared to challenge the powerful. But for his critics, the tampered documents were proof that Musk couldn't be trusted. This is exactly why we warned against believing him, they argued, accusing him of manipulating facts to suit his narrative. Amid the chaos, arrests began. Several high-profile individuals linked to the scandal found themselves in legal trouble. Some were corporate executives accused of laundering money through offshore accounts. Others were political insiders implicated in shady deals brokered behind closed doors. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, Hillary Clinton herself avoided direct charges. Legal experts explained that without conclusive proof tying her directly to criminal activity, prosecuting her would be nearly impossible. Still, the damage to her reputation was irreparable. She faded from public life, leaving behind a legacy marred by controversy. For Musk, the fallout was brutal. His companies suffered staggering losses, billions of dollars wiped out due to boycotts, lawsuits, and plummeting stock prices. Advertisers fled X, formerly Twitter, and customers hesitated to buy Tesla cars. Investors grew nervous, questioning whether Musk's risky behavior would continue to hurt their portfolios. Even SpaceX faced setbacks, with government contracts delayed amid concerns over Musk's judgment. By all measures, his empire was on shaky ground, but perhaps the biggest cost was personal. Musk became a polarizing figure, loved by some and hated by others. Friends distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with someone so controversial. Family members expressed concern for his safety, urging him to step back before things got worse. Anonymous threats continued to pour in, forcing him to live under constant guard. For a man who once thrived on being untouchable, this level of isolation must have been crushing. Despite everything, Musk refused to apologize for the leaks, for the tampered documents, or for the chaos he unleashed. In a final press conference, he stood tall, his voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. "I didn't do this for fame or fortune," he said. "I did it because I believe people deserve to know the truth, no matter how ugly it is. History will judge me not by what I lost, but by what I exposed." His words struck a chord with many. Whether they agreed with him or not, it was hard to deny that Musk had sparked a global conversation about corruption, accountability, and transparency. He had forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about the systems they relied on every day. And while his methods were flawed, his intentions, at least in his mind, were noble. As the dust settled, society began grappling with the aftermath. Governments launched investigations into corruption, though skeptics doubted these efforts would lead to meaningful change. Protesters took to the streets demanding reforms and calling for leaders to be held accountable. Grassroots movements gained momentum, fueled by a renewed sense of urgency to fix broken systems. Hashtags like "No More Secrets" and "Demand Transparency" trended worldwide, uniting people across borders in a shared cause. Yet not everyone was optimistic. Critics argued that nothing would really change, that those in power always found ways to protect themselves. They pointed to the fact that many of the accused walked away scot-free, shielded by legal loopholes or lack of evidence. To them, the scandal was proof that the system was beyond repair. For ordinary people, the scandal left a lasting impact. Trust in institutions hit an all-time low, with polls showing widespread disillusionment among citizens. Conversations shifted from politics to deeper questions about ethics, morality, and the kind of world people wanted to live in. Parents talked to their kids about integrity. Teachers used the scandal as a case study in classrooms, encouraging students to think critically about power and responsibility. Even late-night comedians turned serious, using their platforms to reflect on the state of the world. In the end, the story of Elon Musk's crusade against Hillary Clinton's alleged crime ring became more than just a tale of corruption and conspiracy. It was a mirror held up to society, reflecting both its flaws and its potential. Musk himself remained a divisive figure, a hero to some, a villain to others. But love him or hate him, there was no denying that he had changed the course of history. Years later, people would still debate whether Musk's actions were justified. Did he go too far? Did he achieve anything meaningful? Or did he simply create more chaos? The answers varied depending on who you asked. What was undeniable, however, was the ripple effect of his crusade. It sparked movements, inspired conversations, and forced people to confront uncomfortable truths. For better or worse, Elon Musk had done what he set out to do: expose the shadows where secrets festered. Whether the world was ready to face those shadows or preferred to look away was another question altogether. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again.